Avi Meyers, Northtown Neighborhood News Magazine, Segment 2. Dial us up on the web at www.ntnm.org. You'll find links to all of our videos over the last 10 years on YouTube. Over 1/3 watched. CommunityPolicingCaps24.org. Each district gets 2 new policemen. We're going to be covering a lot of police stuff. Without the election, we're going to be covering a lot of Israel stuff, too, because that is a subject that is near and dear to my heart. So it is a pleasure to have somebody we had on once, and I want to thank Amy Miller for making the arrangements to get the other Amy in the group on, and that is Amy Stoken, who is the executive director of the American Jewish Committee in Chicago, not Congress. It's okay. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me today.
My pleasure. Tell us a little bit about what the American Jewish Committee does.
AJC.
Right.
So we are a nonpartisan 501c3 organization. We've been around for 110 years. We're celebrating our 110th anniversary right now. And our tagline, which really sums it up, is Global Jewish Advocacy. So we are doing advocacy around the world, all the time, as I say, 24/6, and to protect for the safety and security of Israel, the safety and security of the Jewish community, and also to promote what we call Jewish values of human rights and democracy for all. So we're headquartered in New York, but we have a very strong presence here in Chicago. And I've been in this capacity for about 3.5 years now, and we're, especially now, and hopefully we'll get to where we are currently and post-election, but there's clearly lots of advocacy to be done, and that's what AJC is here for.
No question. There's so much misinformation running around, it's not even funny.
Yeah.
So, one of the themes one of the nice things about being interviewing all these different Jewish groups, whether I'm talking to the Consul General, whether I'm talking to Professor Steve Resnikoff of DePaul, or you, or most of these other places, is everybody emphasizes the need for education, for letting people know what's really going on.
Yeah.
So who is it that you want to educate?
So that's a great question, because what we're doing is reaching out beyond Jewish circles. That's really our theme, is that if there are people here in Chicago that are in a position where they are going to make decisions that influence Israel, influence the U.S.-Israel relationship, influence the safety of Jewish communities around the world, we want to be able to educate them. It's on our particular points and the things that matter to us, but that's really what we're about, is building those relationships, building those ties, getting in front of people who are in a position to make decisions and make sure they understand the issues, whether it's about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, whether it's about preventing Iran from gaining a nuclear capability, whether it's about just understanding Israel and what Israel's all about. We're there to educate, to discuss, to serve as a resource, to answer questions. And then we're also interested in the community. And again, in terms of people advocating for the things they believe in, it's just so important to get outside of your own circles, outside of your own community, take the information, take what you feel strongly about on the issues you care about, and make those points to other people. So we want to educate the community as well, to put them in a position to be advocates.
No, I think that's really, sort of like building leaders.
Exactly. And actually being able to provide that seat at the table so that they're not just upset or worried or throwing things at the television, but actually being in a position where they can do something about the issues that mean most to them.
Yeah, see, I don't believe in throwing things at televisions because televisions cost money. I also didn't used to believe in speaking to inanimate objects.
Right.
That actually changed. Susan Rice is actually the one that changed that for me, by the way.
Again, we're a nonpartisan organization.
No, I spoke for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's 501c3. She can't say any of that stuff. So listen, without, in terms of, so do you try to help business relationships too and things like that, or?
I'm not sure in what sense, but certainly in the sense of one of our priorities is promoting Israel's stance in the world. And I think that Israel has a lot to offer. And so one of the things we want to focus on is ties between...
So let's talk about what Israel has to offer. What does Israel have to offer? What are some of the things you'll tell people that Israel has to offer?
Well, on a positive note, which is nice to focus on, because as you know, whether it's on college campuses or things going on around the world, a lot of people are focusing on the negative or focusing on conflict.
Well, actually, I wouldn't call it negative as much as false.
Yeah, but I think it's also just this image that AJC, along with other organizations, are doing their best to show that Israel is about more than the conflicts that it faces, and that despite these challenges, Israel has become the startup nation. Israel is often the first to send help around the world where it's needed. That Israel's really become...
And by the way, that just recently, you don't even have to look very far. I mean, whether it's like things like Haiti locally or...
Right.
There were just... it was on the tip of my tongue. There were just recently some fires that...
In Israel, yeah.
Well, those were in Israel, and actually a few countries helped Israel.
Right, I was going to say that was actually an opportunity to see other countries helping Israel, which
that was unusual.
All very grateful for.
But, things like desalinization also, which is a really big subject for me.
Right.
That's something that Zuckerberg from Facebook has actually put a lot of money into. And even though it's been somewhat dry in Israel of the last couple of years, there's no worry about running out of fresh water there.
Right.
Oh, and by the way, for those of you who haven't been to Israel, okay, going to the washroom they call it a water closet, and it's about right. Okay, when you say low flush, they're almost no flush. And you're really told to only flush when you really got to, because there just isn't a lot of water running around. And it's a desert. Things are dry there. But, all of a sudden you start turning seawater into fresh water.
Right.
And with the technology, I mean, right now in California,
right.
They're starting to use Israeli technology.
Right. So there's so many areas like that, whether it's irrigation or energy efficiency. There's so many areas where Israel, this teeny nation in the Middle East, is really a pioneer. And so that's a priority too, is for people to understand that side of Israel, that it's the sole true democracy in the Middle East. So these are things we not only educate on, but we do other things, and we have something called Project Interchange, which is educational missions in Israel for certain groups, typically non-Jewish, and different groups from around the world. So just talking on the startup nation concept and energy efficiency and water technology, will find a group of leaders in one particular area, for example, water technology, bring them to Israel so they can learn from what Israel's doing and also connect with their counterparts in the hopes of building those relationships. And I think it's important because we're seeing so much about boycotts of Israel and tearing down relationships. So it's hugely critical for us to do things that we can to help build the relationships between Israel and the rest of the world, given that Israel does have so much to offer.
No, there's no question about it. And you have, some of the countries that know better are already trying to forge technological relationships with Israel, because if the boycott, divest, sanction movement against Israel really wants to be honest, they throw out your iPhones, guys, get rid of your heart monitors and your pacemakers and all these things.
Right. Well, another point to that, too, is not just exactly what you're saying, that you would have to give up certain pharmaceuticals and technologies that people use every day. But the fact is, for people that actually care about achieving a peace in the Middle East, BDS is going to achieve the opposite. And so that's another point that we feel very strongly about educating our interlocutors.
They have strongly hurt the Arabs in the so-called West Bank.
Right, it's not
helping.
I mean,
closing down factories where dozens of these, a few hundred of them, he had a living wage, better than a living wage, the equivalent of a good factory job in America, with the UAW in its heyday.
Right.
And they're closing them down because they're, they have no idea what they're doing.
So when we talk about educating and educating outside of our community, whether we're speaking to different religious groups, folks on college campuses, diplomats that are stationed here in Chicago, our mission is to explain to them the real path towards peace between the Israelis and the Palestinians is going to be a negotiated settlement, and that BDS is actually antithetical to peace. And I think it's an important message that we're spreading around the globe. And I think that's one key piece of key distinguishing factor of AJC is that we have a global infrastructure and we're around the world. And so we're able to take this message and be able to educate and advocate in all of these different places at the same time.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of time left, but in our last remaining couple of minutes, and I know you can't, you're not a political organization. Are there any implications for, any idea, or is it too, I'm sure it's too soon, but what implications face Israel over the recent election?
So thank you for acknowledging it's too soon to tell, because that's a huge factor here, is that we don't know yet. This is a lot of unknown. A lot of people didn't expect the election to turn out the way it did, and we're going to have to stay vigilant. I think there's concern that we've heard some inconsistent messages coming out of the Trump campaign, some positive, some concerning, but that there's reason to be optimistic, and we're going to have to stay vigilant on all sides, promoting Israel's right to defend itself. Also, we're going to have to be focusing on anti-Semitism and also looking and being very vigilant where anti-Zionism or anti-Israel rhetoric is actually just another form of anti-Semitism. So I think we're going to be seeing it from both sides, and it's important to stay focused on policy, not just on people. I know people are getting very worked up right now trying to figure out what's going to happen. A lot of it's speculation. All we can do is focus on the issues and continue to advocate for what we believe in.
Listen, go grab a good Israeli vodka or something, or a nice bottle of wine. They make terrific wines over there these days. And relax, because you're not going to make it happen till it happens. It just doesn't work that way.
Right.
And especially if you're an advocate of dry wines. I mean, as a matter of fact, when Jacob moved to Egypt, it says, the Torah says that he drank aged wine.
Right.
And Rashi, the main commentator on the Bible, talks about how good it is for one's innards and disposition, especially when you get older. So get some wine, guys. Relax. We're going to find out what happens, and then we can deal with this afterwards. If people would like to contact you over at AGC?
Sure, yes. www.ajc.org. And to what you're saying, what people can do now is just figure out ways to get involved, to make your voice heard outside of your community, because we are going to have our work cut out for us.
Very important. Amy Stoken, Executive Director of AGC in Chicago, I want to thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
I want to thank you, Amy Miller, for helping arrange everything. I want to thank my entire technical crew, Sonny Hirsch. Thank you for joining us, everybody. Bye-bye.